Cold open. You are lying on a cold concrete floor. Your back has been wrong for 2 years. Not injured, not broken, just wrong. Like something shifted slightly out of place and never found its way back. You cannot fully straighten up anymore. When you first stand in the morning, you give it 30 seconds, and it loosens enough to function. You have stopped thinking of this as a problem. You think of it as a startup sequence. Above you is a Porsche Cayenne that costs $140,000. The owner is in the lobby. He drove 40 minutes to bring it here because someone told him you were the best. He is drinking the coffee your front desk put out for customers, and he is on his phone, and he has not looked up once since he arrived. You have been under this car for 2 hours. You found the problem in the first 20 minutes. The next hour and 40 minutes was spent on 3 other things he didn't know were wrong and didn't ask you to check. Because that is what you do. Not because he will thank you. He won't. When you hand him the bill, he will ask if all of this was really necessary. You already know this. You have had this conversation 400 times. You reach for the wrench anyway. You have always reached for the wrench anyway. That's the part nobody understands about you. That's the part that started everything. Level 1. The Apprentice. You are 17 years old, and you are in your father's garage, and you are watching him take apart an engine like someone reading a book they've read 100 times. He doesn't explain what he's doing. He just does it and lets you watch. You watch for 2 hours without being asked to. Not because he told you to. Not because you had nothing else to do. Because the engine makes sense to you in a way that almost nothing else in your life does at 17. Everything has a reason. Every component connects to another component. Every problem has a cause, and every cause has a solution. And if you are patient enough, and careful enough, and willing to get dirty enough, you can find it. That appeals to something deep in you that school never reached. You start helping your father on weekends. Not helping exactly. Handing him tools. Watching. Asking questions. He sometimes answers, and sometimes ignores, depending on whether the answer requires stopping what he's doing. By the time you are 18, you can change brakes, replace belts, and diagnose a rough idle from the sound alone. You are not fast. You are not trained. But your hands know things that your brain hasn't caught up to yet. Your father looks at you one evening after you correctly identified a vacuum leak on a neighbor's car that 2 other people missed. He doesn't say anything dramatic. He just nods. You understand the nod. It means something is confirmed. It means keep going. Level 2. The Grease Monkey. You are 19 and you are working at a dealership service department. Your title is Lube Technician. That means you change oil all day, every day. You change oil on cars that cost more than your annual salary, and you do it in a bay that smells like burnt rubber and penetrating oil, and the specific exhaustion of repetitive physical work that your body is still young enough to absorb without complaint. You make $14 an hour. The flat rate system means you get paid per job, not per hour. An oil change pays 0.3 of a flat rate hour. A flat rate hour pays $18. You make $5.40 per oil change. You can do roughly 12 oil changes in a shift if you are fast and nothing goes wrong. Nothing always goes wrong. A drain plug that someone cross-threaded last time. A filter housing that requires a special tool you have to borrow from the Tech 3 bays over who doesn't like being interrupted. A car that came in low on brake fluid that you are required to flag and write up and wait for a service advisor to call the customer and get approval before you can top it off. These things add up. Some days you make less than minimum wage on flat rate. You don't complain. Not because you're not frustrated. Because you understand that this is the bottom and the only direction is up and the only way up is through. You watch the master technicians across the shop. They move differently than you. Not faster exactly, more efficiently. They have eliminated every unnecessary movement. Every reach and turn and step has been optimized over years of repetition until the work flows through them like something automatic. You want to move like that. You study them the way you studied your father, quietly, carefully, without them knowing. Level 3. The Specialist. You are 24 and you have a wall of certifications. ASE certifications, manufacturer training, electrical diagnostic, advanced engine performance. You earned every one of them on your own time and mostly at your own expense because the dealership pays for some training and not others, and you took the others anyway. You are now a diagnostic technician. That means when the other techs can't figure out what's wrong, they bring it to you. You have a scanner that costs more than your first car. You have a multimeter and a lab scope and a smoke machine and a set of test leads color-coded and organized in a way that would seem excessive to anyone who hadn't spent 3 hours chasing a parasitic drain that turned out to be a faulty body control module drawing 47 milliamps when it should have been drawing 0. You found it. You always find it. That is your reputation now. When something comes into the shop that nobody can fix, it ends up in your bay. You don't always fix it quickly. Sometimes you spend 4 hours on a problem that pays 1 hour a flat rate. You eat those hours. Not because you are required to, because the problem is interesting and you cannot leave an interesting problem unsolved. Your service manager tells you that you need to be more productive. He means you need to stop spending 4 hours on 1 hour jobs. You nod and say you understand. You go back to the bay and spend another hour on the problem. You find it. You fix it. You write up the repair in detail, so specific that the next technician who sees this problem will find it in 20 minutes. Your service manager grades you on productivity. Your productivity is below average. Your quality scores are the highest in the shop. These two facts exist in permanent tension. They always will. Level 4. The realization. You are 26 and you do the math for the first time. Not your hourly rate. Your actual earnings divided by your actual hours. You arrive at the shop at 7 a.m. You leave at 6 p.m. on average. That is 11 hours. You get paid for 8. The 3 hours of difference are diagnostic time that didn't flag, warranty repairs that paid less than the time they took, comebacks from other technicians' mistakes that you fix without charging because it's faster than the paperwork. You make $52,000 a year. You have been making roughly $52,000 a year for 3 years, despite getting 2 raises. The raises increased your flat rate, but the flat rate hours available in your market have not increased. You calculate your effective hourly rate. It is $17.23. You have been a certified master technician for 2 years. You are making $17.23 an hour. You sit in your car in the parking lot after your shift and you look at your hands. The knuckles are permanently stained in a way that doesn't fully wash out anymore. There is a scar on your right index finger from a spring clip that got away from you on a strut replacement 18 months ago. Your left thumbnail is slightly thicker than your right from a time you didn't move it fast enough. Your hands tell your whole story. You are 26 years old. You have the hands of someone twice your age. You drive home. You don't quit. Not yet. But something shifts that evening that doesn't shift back. Level 5. The body. You are 28 and your back is wrong. You know when it started. It started with the trucks. The shop added a commercial vehicle contract, and suddenly a third of your bay time is spent on full-size trucks and vans that require you to work in positions that your spine was not designed to maintain for the hours you maintain them. You see a chiropractor for 3 months. It helps. You stop going because the appointments are at 5 p.m. and you are never out of the shop by 5 p.m. Your knees developed something the doctor called prepatellar bursitis, which is a medical term for the thing that happens to people who spend years on concrete floors without adequate knee protection, and occasionally without any knee protection because you were in a hurry and the knee pads were at the other end of the bay. Your right shoulder makes a sound, not a loud sound, a small internal sound that only you can hear. You describe it to the doctor as a clicking. He says it's a partial rotator cuff tear. He says it should be treated. You ask how long the recovery is. He says 6 to 8 weeks of limited activity. You say you'll schedule it when things slow down at the shop. Things don't slow down at the shop. 2 years later, your shoulder still clicks. You have learned to work around it. You have learned to work around all of it. That is both your greatest professional skill and the thing that is slowly taking your body apart. Level 6. The customer. You could write a book. You won't, but you could. The man who brings in his car for a brake job and tells you he just had the brakes done 6 months ago somewhere else and wants to know why they're already worn, and you look at the previous shop's paperwork and the brakes were never done. They just turned the rotors and charged for new pads, and then you have to explain this to the customer who doesn't believe you and thinks you're just trying to charge him more. The woman who declines the cabin air filter replacement you recommend and then calls back 2 days later to tell you there is something wrong with her air conditioning because it smells musty, and when you explain that the musty smell is caused by a dirty cabin air filter, she asks why you didn't catch that during the inspection. The man who watches you work from outside the bay window for 45 minutes and then comes in to tell you he looked it up online and the repair should only take 30 minutes. The teenager who brings in his first car, a 2004 Civic with 180,000 miles, and sits in the waiting room looking at his phone while you find 11 things wrong with it and have to call him over and explain which 3 are safety critical and which 8 can wait, and watch his face when you tell him the total for the 3 necessary repairs is $1,400. He has $600. You work with him. You always work with people who have $600 and need $1,400 of work. That is not a business decision. That is just who you are. That teenager's brakes work. He drives home safe. He will never know the difference between what he paid and what it actually cost. You know that's enough. Level 7. The choice. You are 31. You have been offered a job, not at another dealership, at a software company that makes diagnostic tools for automotive repair shops. They need someone who actually understands what technicians need from diagnostic software because their current tools were designed by engineers who have never turned a wrench, and it shows. The salary is $88,000. No flat rate. No standing on concrete. No fighting with a service manager about productivity metrics. You sit with this for 2 weeks. Not because the decision is unclear financially, because the decision is not entirely financial. You walk through the shop on a Thursday evening after everyone has left. The bays are empty and the lights are half down and the shop smells like it always smells. Oil and rubber and the particular cold of a concrete floor in winter. You have spent more time in this building than in your own home over the last 12 years. You know every corner of it. You know where the compressor loses pressure in cold weather and which lift has a slow hydraulic leak that the shop foreman has been meaning to fix for 8 months, and which bay gets the best light for color matching on paint repairs. You know this place the way you know your own hands. You put in your notice the next morning. Your service manager shakes your hand and says the shop won't be the same. You believe him. You also believe that wasn't enough reason to stay. Level 8. The understanding. You are 32. You sit at a desk now. A clean desk in a climate-controlled office where nobody asks you to work around a partial rotator cuff tear, and the floor is carpet, and your knees don't ache when you stand up at the end of the day. Your back still does the thing in the morning. You give it 30 seconds. It loosens. Some things don't entirely go away. You spend your days talking to technicians about what they need from the tools they use. You are good at this in the way that only comes from having been exactly where they are. When a technician tells you the scanner doesn't show live data in the format they need, you know precisely what they mean and precisely why it matters and precisely what it would take to fix it. When a technician tells you the software doesn't account for the way a real diagnostic workflow actually moves, you don't need them to explain further. You lived that workflow for 12 years. It is in your hands. It is in your back. It is in the shoulder that still clicks on cold mornings. You miss it sometimes. Not the flat rate, not the service manager, not the customers who watched you from outside the bay window. You miss the problem. The specific satisfaction of a system that doesn't work and then does. The moment the scanner shows a reading that shouldn't be there, and you follow it back through the circuit and find the thing that no one else found, and fix it completely, and close the hood, and the car runs exactly as it was designed to run. That feeling. You haven't found anything else that gives you that feeling. You're not sure you will. But your back straightens in the morning now, fully, without the 30-second startup sequence. You notice that 3 weeks after you left the shop, you stood up one morning and you were just standing. No sequence, no waiting, just standing. You stood there in the quiet of your bedroom for a moment longer than necessary. The way you used to sit in a car you just fixed, just to feel it working right. Somewhere right now, a 17-year-old is standing in a garage watching someone take an engine apart. He is not being asked to watch. He is watching anyway. He has no idea what he is getting into. He'll find out. They always do.